Sustainable Digital Finance is a title of a white paper co-written by Thomas Puschmann of University of Zurich in collaboration with Stanford University. It identifies the Fintech revolution as a main driver to tackle the sustainable development goals. Welcome to finance.swiss. Today, Thomas tells me more about the role of Intertek, Fintech and blockchain in the context of sustainability.
Over the past few years, we saw that sustainability, as well as the Fintech revolution, were two drivers of the financial sector. So transformation drivers that really shape the future of the financial system. And until now, it was very much in parallel. And what we could observe in the past 2 or 3 years is that there was an intersection between the two of them. So we could see that there were a couple of hundred startups that were really focusing especially on that topic, providing solutions for environmental, social or governance topics by using technology for the financial sector, which was new at that time. And that brought us to the idea to write this paper and to look deeper into theory as well as the startup sector to identify major trends.
And how can Fintech, Intertek, blockchain and sustainability innovation drive the economy towards a more sustainable and a more human concept of development?
Yeah, as I said, it touches all three areas of the ESG spectrum, and you could think of various examples there. Take one from the financial sector itself, is the area of impact investing, which gained very much attention over the past years, but was very much focused on client-advisor relationships. And what we could also observe from the fintech world was the rise of the robo-advisor. So why not develop robo-advisors that really focus or integrate these sustainability factors in their core, so that a client is really able to decide whether he wants and he can also invest in a sustainable firm then. But for that, of course, he needs to know if that firm is really sustainable or not. So that requires reliable data, which often is not there. Another example is the lending sector. So banks, of course, also lend money to firms. But for that, they need to know what firms are investing in sustainable solutions for the future. Take, for example, the value chain of a company. Very much today we know that the greenhouse gas emissions that a firm emits, you know, these so-called Scope 1 emissions and Scope 2 emissions. Scope 1 are the ones that really come out of your house. Scope 2 are the ones that you purchase in form of energy from your energy provider, but the Scope 3, which very often make up to 75% of all greenhouse gas emissions, come from anywhere in the supply chain that you can't control and you don't even know it. So you need data for that to then really decide if you want to lend money to such a firm or not. So that's another example. But that can also go into other sectors. For example, the energy sector that we touched now is one that is currently also developing new payment infrastructures on blockchain-based solutions, with which you are able to sell and even purchase energy from peer-to-peer. So if you have solar energy on your rooftop, then you can sell it to me and I can pay you in any kind of currency that is based on the blockchain. So it has also touch points to other industries as well, which is maybe not so obvious.
So you also mentioned the startups that you looked at. So I would like to hear more about the situations of those startups in Switzerland which combine sustainability and technology. What's the status there?
Yeah, so we made an analysis on a global base. So we looked at more comprehensively of what startups are around, and we identified a couple of hundred and saw that the leading countries in the world are the US, of course, first because fintech is very common there, is very well known and is established, was one of the first countries where this emerged. But then already on second place, we saw that Switzerland plays a major role, which was very surprising for us, which in the end also brought us to the idea that we could collaborate in this field. And we found really many startups there touching all different areas, from data management solutions up to impact investing. So there is a broad set around. And just recently, Switzerland also found the Green Fintech Network, which was one of the first in the world, which really wants to foster innovation in that area. So that is really a great achievement already, and I think it will grow over the next coming years.
One of the critiques that we hear about academic research papers is, of course, that they don't gather enough traction to materialize. But you propose a new approach. Can you elaborate on that?
So one of the major challenges that we had, especially in Europe, over the past decades or even centuries was compared to the US, for example, or to other Asian countries, is that invention very often remains invention and doesn't get into the market, doesn't get commercialized into products and services. And this is one of the greatest challenges we have, because if you look into the past, then of course many inventions were made here, but then the startups went to the States and then introduced and launched their products there. So we think that with an innovation platform like this, which more tightly integrates these different phases of innovation from academic research to the phase where you really put it into practice and spin off startups and even incubate them with incumbents, is something that hasn't happened that much, especially in Europe. And with such kind of an innovation platform where you have put together all the stakeholders and share all the knowledge and the expertise, I think it is a more powerful tool than to really also come up with more innovative solutions here.
So you're working on that platform right now?
Exactly.
And is there any connection to the SIF Green Fintech Network?
Yes, we work together. Our Swiss Fintech Innovation Lab is part of the Green Fintech Network. So that's why we are closely involved also in that. And of course, there are many touch points there as well.
So we spoke about that there's also this gap of a lot of money that could be needed for sustainable investments. How can the Swiss financial sector contribute to innovation and steer private capital to overcome these global challenges?
I think Switzerland has at least three layers of really getting involved into that global challenge. The first one is, of course, that it is the biggest offshore capital market in the world. So from a private banking view, there is a huge opportunity that people invest their money in sustainable firms. Second, I would say Switzerland is, of course, also a big investor in other countries. So if we think of having data about what the most sustainable companies and organizations are in these countries, we can make our investments more green, more social, more governance, compliant. I think that is the second opportunity. And the third one, of course, is that Switzerland is very much an export-oriented country. So we talked about these supply chains, and most of our greenhouse gas emissions, for example, come from outside the country, 75%. It's not within Switzerland. So if we take care about that, supply chains and value chains, more and more in the future, I think this is the third great opportunity for Switzerland to really make an impact there.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thomas, thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you, Tanya. It was a great pleasure.